Hello everyone. Because I've done the necessary grinding that should carry me through the rest of the game, I think it's time we go ahead and talk about character advancement here. And yes, I've pulled up a PDF of the manual to do this with. Also, throat clogging for some ungodly reason. Why right now? Who knows? Anyway. So I briefly went over it in the first video, but you have 6 character types. You have humans and mutants, which is what we start out. We start out with 2 of each in the party, but through equipping parts or eating meat, they can become cyborgs, then robots, or beasts, than monsters. So let's talk about that a little bit. So if you can see here, I can't highlight text the way I would like to, but basically you can read this, and I will go through these one at a time here. Basically humans, mutants advance exactly the way you would expect. They go out and fight, they gain experience. Or maybe this isn't the way you would expect, because, well, the previous Final Fantasy Legends didn't do this. At least not to this extent. But humans and mutants, when they fight, they will gain stats. It's just like any other Final Fantasy RPG out there. At least early on. The only thing that doesn't increase is their defense when they level up, and that's because you get armor to equip on them. No big deal there. Now beasts are a slightly different thing. A beast, if you feed meat to a human or mutant, it becomes a beast. The chart to do this is long, and it's actually a lot less complicated but more convoluted than it has been. So, yeah. Anyway. But according to this, and as far as I can tell this is correct, if you make someone a beast and they level up, there is a chance they will turn into a different beast, depending on what level and all that. Beasts can also still use equipment. You can still put armor on it to increase the defense. But if you feed a beast a piece of meat, once again you have to look at the chart to figure out, what you're going to turn into. But a monster will it turns into a monster, and suddenly you can't equip inventory on it anymore, just like the previous Final Fantasy Legend games. Monsters only have their innate skills and talents to rely on. Now we go down to cyborgs and robots. We're going to find very much the exact same thing here. Cyborgs, if a human or a mutant installs parts, it becomes a cyborg. Cyborgs can still equip weapons and shields. And once again, when they level up, there is a chance that they can turn into something else, because that's the way cyborgs and beasts work. However, when it becomes a robot, it loses the ability to actually equip a lot of things. Instead, you have to buy upgrades for it. And I think we even saw the capsules and stuff in the first video. If not, I'll show those off again later. But to increase its stats, you're going to have to install upgrades, which get very, very pricey. And robots can't use magic. Neither can monsters unless they get it as part of their innate abilities, but beasts and cyborgs can. Now, all that said, that's very nice and all, but if you don't like the upgrades you've got, when you become a monster or a beast or whatever, there are a couple ways to reverse it. Monsters and beasts can install parts to get back to being human or mutant. Robots and cyborgs can eat meat to get back to being human. Or there will be a thing we install on the Talon that basically we literally have the worst bowel movement of our lives, and Flush X is the name of it. You basically just eliminate all those things and go back to being human or mutant, which we're going to look at a little bit here. So yeah, here's step one of determining what you turn into. Every robot, beast, cyborg, or monster, or human or mutant has an innate element. And what the parts they put in or the meat they eat determines partially what monster they're going to turn into. So, you know, let's say the character Arthur, I believe that's the one I named Lantern. I'd have to look again, but he starts off as fire. Well, if he if he eats, say, the meat or installs the parts, well, can't even say that. We can say this for it's more in line for the monsters and beasts here. The robots do weird things, and it doesn't even matter at high levels for this, but you'll see why in a minute. But yeah, for monsters and beasts, let's say Star, I believe, starts off as an Earth. So as Earth, if she ate the meat of a water monster, she would turn into a fire monster, or a fire beast in this case, and then later she would be fire. So if she wanted to turn into a specific, she would have to find the you get it. And the second page there is what I've already done, but here we have the creature data. So let's talk about this just a little bit. If you look, you see 5 different, and I still can't highlight anything here, which is annoying. You see 5 different columns and a bunch of different things. So what the level there is what level the character eating the meat or installing the parts is. So a level 5 character, say, and there's an example later so that uses level 5. So let's say we've hit level 10. I'd say we've hit level 10. So if you look, it's hard to see because we have to start it over on the beasts, which is the second page here. Let me go back up. And let's say Star, being an Earth, eats the meat of an air monster. Well, Earth becomes Earth plus air equals water. So water at level 10, she would become a salt monk. That's how this works. It technically kinda works the same for cyborgs and robots, except that every single cyborg and robot you run into has 2 elements. So I've never really been sure how to interpret that. And just to show you what I mean, if you look at that, everything you could possibly install the parts of has 2 different elements. And there's no real differentiation that I could find anywhere that says it's going to lean one way or the other. So, Lantern. So back here, Lantern being a fire, let's say he installs the parts at level 10 of something. I know this isn't the way it totally works, but when he installs the parts, if he installs the parts of, say, a hooligan, Well, a hooligan, as we will see here, it's the first one underneath Cyborg, right at the very top. We fight a hooligan. It's earth and water. So the fire over here, well, a fire means water, air. It's earth and water, so he could turn into water or air. And if you look it over, those are two completely different things. One's a hooligan and one's a quacky. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that works. However, it's not going to matter in the least for us, because I've already leveled everyone up to, well, level 31. Just to avoid this goddamn chart. And now you might understand why I wanted to avoid this goddamn chart. But you see, when Lantern becomes a robot, he will become what is called a removed. Or becomes a cyborg, he will become a removed. And when he becomes a robot, he will become Venus. That sounds very wrong, but yeah, we'll go with it. And Star will first become an Anubis, 75% chance. There's also an... Because remember, you're looking at the level 31 here, because that's what level they are right now. You can't see it, but I'm circling the bottom row over on the piece on page 2 here. And then has a 50% chance from there to turn into Seiryu, the ultimate dragon. Which means I can eat up to 3 pieces of meat at most, and hopefully get it. Hopefully? Anyway. So there we go. Yeah, pretty much a lot of what you might have expected from Final Fantasy Legend 3, but definitely a lot that I wasn't expecting. In a lot of ways, this doesn't quite feel like the same Final Fantasy Legend games we've been playing up to this point. But there it is. So, hopefully that explains the way the party's going to level from here on out. Because once again, they decided to change everything. But, if you have specific questions, put them in the comments. Hopefully I will be able to answer them. So anyway, next, we're going to be able to raffle stomp most of this game from here. Do people say that anymore? I don't think so. I think that was early 2000s NetSpeak. But we should raffle stomp the rest of the game. At least up to the end. When, well, hopefully we'll have leveled up even more from just fighting our way through the game. And since we don't have to worry about weapon degradation and such, I can actually just go ahead and buy the good gear as we run across it. But anyway, that will be for future us to worry about. So until then, take care everyone.